Hello there, good to see you. We start a new travel tale today, and it's the Dublin Diaries. So on this trip I went just for a few days to Dublin in Ireland with my friend Tony, and he's a retired policeman and a great friend. And so this is the account, episode 1. From the long stay car park at Holyhead Ferry Terminal in Wales to the Irish ferry's swift, fast ferry to Dublin, we had to get 2 buses. The first to the check-in, where a woman came up to me and demanded information about the nearest cup of coffee. She seemed to think that I worked for Irish ferries. There we queued to board a rickety bus to take us to the ferry with 40-odd others, most of whom seemed to be students. They were wearing their entire personal belongings in huge rucksacks beset with numerous bulging pouches, flaps and logos. One young woman looked like a homeless traveller. She had a silver ring through her lip, black and red dyed hair and dark eyes. Bit like me really, except for the dark eyes, because mine are Irish blue. She pushed a buggy laden with ramshackle carrier bags and a guitar. She wore 3 rucksacks, had a kindly-looking mongrel dog on a rope lead, and held a bunny baby. She asked my friend Tony to help her onto the bus, and I looked back from the driver to see Tony standing on the pavement, holding a baby in one arm and a dog on a rope in the other. I wished at that moment I could remember which pouch of my own rucksack I had put my camera. The bus set off through hostile dockland, and reaching the giant gaping mouth of the ferry, became alarmingly stuck on the ramp. It was steep and metal, and the back of the bus was scraping it with horrible grating noises. We jumped off in some alarm and scurried up the stairs to the deck of the ferry. 2 hours later, as I sipped the peaty flavour of Jameson's Irish whiskey, I saw Dublin and the hills behind that city that is skyscraper free. We approached across a choppy sea with rain in the air. The sky over the city was that scudding mixture of a bright line over the hills with a grey, dark and blue wash above. It is hard to describe my feelings other than as a swell of emotion approaching Ireland for the first time at last after singing about this for so long. A quote from my song, "Ireland and myself, it's like magnet and iron, and one day I will stand on Irish soil, and for that day I'm always trying." That's from my song called The Irish Way, which you can find on YouTube. So, James Joyce, who was one of Dublin's great literary figures, said, "When I die, Dublin will be written in my heart." And Dublin stays in people's hearts, even if they don't come from here. It's like an intimate capital village, one of the few places that seems more beautiful in the rain, where literary ghosts vie with the dynamic cosmopolitan modern city life, where you can go out in Dublin and be found hours later walking by the Liffey with a whole new bunch of friends as Ron Wood said. The River Liffey is where Dublin stands on Ireland's east coast, as you may know. When we got to Dublin port, we were not to know, because there seems to be an aversion to signs, maps and directions in this land, that our hotel, Mount Herbert, lay a mere 10-minute taxi ride away to Sandy Mount. Instead, we took a bus in a traffic jam to the city centre. We then got the DART. This is a train, and DART stands for Dublin Area Rapid Transport. And we got this DART train from Tara Station to Lansdowne Road and walked to the hotel. All of this included being baffled, lost, led astray, doubling back up flights of stairs, carrying our luggage. 2 hours later, we finally crawled into our hotel. The same time, for goodness sake, it had taken sailing from Wales to Ireland. We had asked the way of various Dublin people, and we were both struck by their warmth and friendliness, particularly their eyes that looked into yours so directly. It was almost worth getting lost to ask such people the way. After flinging ourselves down on our hotel beds for a few minutes, we set out exploring and came upon a Chinese restaurant called the Orchid in the Ballsbridge area. It was an establishment so expensive and upper class that they didn't serve lager or beer, only wine, and the only wine was €90 a bottle. The food was great, as was the bill, and I was a little taken aback by the presence of an orchid on my dish of sweet and sour chicken. It was a lovely place. Then came the experience that made the whole trip worthwhile. We navigated our way to Merrion Row and found O'Donoghue's bar for a traditional Irish music session and some draft Guinness. The long, old-fashioned bar was intimate, in fact, packed. The small semicircle of musicians were at one end playing. It seemed they were playing mainly for themselves, and they didn't mind us being there. A local man said to us, "If they don't like the crowd that's in, they won't play for them." So we were lucky. One of them was playing the guitar. There were 2 fiddle players, one in his 70s, someone on a flute, another 2 on tin whistles, one on a banjo and another on a mandolin. They would start slowish and sedate and gradually build up until they were flying and you with them. I worked my way to the front and stood near them, drinking in the sound as well as the Guinness. Tears came to my eyes, for I had this feeling I was home at last. I closed my eyes and heard the jigs and reels and the many voices of the people talking and enjoying the night, and counted my blessings to be there. That sound in O'Donoghue's bar is pure Irish magic. Then the one on the tin whistle was asked to sing a song. He took up the guitar and sang "The Water is Wide." The fiddles and the flute joined in, only to enhance and embellish in a most sensitive way. I promised myself I would learn and play that beautiful song. He wore a t-shirt which said in green letters on the back, "When Irish eyes are smiling, you know they're up to something." Later I told him I liked his singing, and he said, "This pub is my local. Sure you can't buy this." And he gestured round the room and at his friends on the musical instruments. I began chatting with a young American who was there with her parents on holiday. She asked me about the pub, and I told her I was new too, having just come from England that same day. She said, "Oh, but you look Irish." I told her I was half Irish, and she said that although she did not look it, she was too. We both said how much our Irish roots meant to us. When we parted, I touched her arm and said, "It's been great meeting you, and keep that Irish fire burning in your heart." She gave me a hug, and she said, "I will. It's not in my face like yours, but it is in my heart." I got a wooden stool next to a bodhrán player, that's the drum, you know. Very late he was to come in. Before we left, I asked him about the curious beating stick he was using, like 6 fire tapers held together in the middle with red sticky tape. He answered, "This, you call it a hot shot." He was beating it on a small drum which was covered in animal skin, but with the fur still on it. He told me it was deer skin. Well, it made a great sound. When we left, all the trains and buses had stopped running, and we were marauding about the city streets with lots of young people, trying for a taxi. It was ages before we got one, and we arrived back at the hotel, footsore and tired out, but I would have walked on hot coals for the evening I've just had in Ireland. The next morning, I realised I'd slept like a toppeen and woke up hungry for a full Irish breakfast in the Mount Herbert Hotel. 2 friendly women with red hair, they were sisters, they were serving the breakfast. Because I did not want bacon, one of them heaped sausages onto my plate. Well, I didn't protest. Afterwards, we took the morning air and walked through the residential area of Sandy Mount, looking for the sea. We asked an elderly man with white hair and an earring for directions. "Walk straight down there and you can't miss it." And then his face cracking into the broadest smile. "You'll fall right into it." The seafront yielded a view of the coastline right round to Dunleary and beyond, even though we were not far from Dublin city centre. The rain was soft and warm, and we enjoyed it. The sea was clear, and you could see clouds of sand being disturbed deep down as the waves came in and stirred it up. Probably the residue of the wash from the great ferries coming into Dublin port, not far off. We took photographs of a James Joyce monument and then asked a park maintenance worker where the nearest Dart train station was. We fancied riding along the coast to the end of the line at Bray before going back into the city. He took great trouble to give us directions, finishing with, "Well, I'm going that way myself, so I'll look out for you." What's wrong with all these people that they are all so cheerful? They would much rather be friendly and helpful than sour, I think. So I think I'll leave it there for the end of episode 1. And if you want to come and listen to episode 2 of Dublin Diaries, lots of adventures in store, then meet up with me again here at 4 p.m. tomorrow, UK time. Okay, thanks for being with me. Blessings. See you for episode 2.